just what's on your mind, what you drinking. Is that whiskey on your breath? I smell.
We're back. Welcome back to the Showtime Forum, familia. This is episode 19 of the Showtime Forum podcast. I am your host, Ray Lobatamon, along with Golden Knight GFX. What's going on, man?
What's up, man? How's it good to be back?
Yeah? Can you believe it's episode 19 already?
Time to retire. Pretty much just wrap it up here.
Well, I didn't hear anything you said, man. What was that?
Oh, really? I was like, did it cut? I was saying it's time to retire. Pretty much wrap it up here, and then that's it. I guess we're done for Showtime.
Yeah, well, at least for this season, we'll be done like another episode or so. But obviously, we couldn't do it without everybody that's out there listening to us right now. I mean, let's not say we're like a huge podcast or anything like that, but we've definitely grown a lot. We're getting stronger. We're getting deeper every week. And again, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, the same old spiel we do every single week. If you want to find us, look down at the description below. You'll find all of our handles there. And with us today, we have writer and newest Showtime member, Alex Knodel. Or I'm sorry, Alex Knodel, right?
Yep, that's right.
How did I butcher it after butchering it?
I mean, everybody gets it wrong. I'm used to it at this point.
All right, so where can everybody find you at right now, Alex? What's your handles?
At Alex Knodel, except the L at the end is a 1 on Twitter, and then AP Knodel on Instagram.
Whew. All right, so we're just gonna put that in the description below as well, so you guys can all check that out as well. But Alex was kind enough to join us today as we discuss a few things that have popped up today, specifically the NCAA's ruling, or the so-called Rich Paul rule that came out recently, and also Alex's debut article on the ShowtimeForum.com. So if you guys haven't actually had a chance to check out the ShowtimeForum.com, make sure you get down there. Check out the article that Alex wrote. We have another article by Philip Herrero, another new member of Showtime Forum. So make sure you guys check it out, dude. It's pretty good stuff. Alex's story was actually very good. It had to do with, or actually, why don't you tell people, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much about how long LeBron and AD will fit together this year, and kind of how they'll mesh in terms of the Lakers' offense and what that'll kind of look like going forward. And I think there's a lot of potential in that pairing.
First of all, I mean, great job, man. I mean, I read through that article. Is very detailed, used video footage, to pretty much highlight everything you were trying to say. So really great job on that. One of the points you talked about is how the pick and roll is pretty much going to be the bread and butter for AD and LeBron this coming season. How do you envision that working? I know you talked also about drop coverage as far as trying to defend that pick and roll from other teams. So if you could just tell us a little bit more of how you envision that working here throughout the season.
Yeah, so I mean, for most of LeBron's career, everybody kind of knows you surround him with shooting, and that generally leads to a successful offense. And so with LeBron and AD and that pick and roll, I mean, that's two of the guys who put like the most pressure on the rim in the entire league. So when you surround that with shooting, like where you can help from Danny Green, KCP, Avery Bradley, like guys that can knock down wide open threes. And so when you're looking at the Lakers offense this season, for teams that don't want to just switch that pick and roll, like they're going to have a lot of trouble guarding that, because they're either going to give up a lob to Anthony Davis, or LeBron's going to be able to get to the rim, or if they send help, then they're leaving guys wide open on the perimeter.
So what do you think is the best way to kind of counteract that?
For other teams?
Yeah, for other teams.
Yeah, I mean, ideally you'd have the personnel where you can switch LeBron and AD if you got two guys who are like big enough to stay in front of them on the perimeter and like battle in the post if they try to post you or like isolate against you. But it's tough, especially if you're playing AD at center. Like there's not going to be that many guys that can guard him at center and like provide adequate rim protection for your team, but then also switch out and guard LeBron on the perimeter. But ideally you would want to be able to switch that. But if you can't, then you're kind of screwed. So
yeah. Yeah, the one thing that stuck out to me was like the roll gravity you were talking about. Obviously, if people aren't familiar with B-ball indexes, player ratings, roll gravity is obviously when a player rolls out of the pick and roll, it's pretty much when he sucks in the defense, right? The space he creates in order to play make, right? With the roll gravity, dude, is there a scarier tandem when it comes to the roll gravity other than LeBron and Anthony Davis?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think so, because like Anthony Davis, probably the best lob finisher in the league. He's got a crazy wingspan, and he's already like 7 feet tall, so he can get up there. And then LeBron's big enough that he can like get any pass off over defenders, like smaller guys you can trap, like even Steph Curry and like Kyrie or something. You could trap and like they're not gonna be able to get passes off over guys. But with LeBron, he can just see over the defense, and then like him and AD are both so big that like it's really tough to stop that.
For me, basically, I mean, what's interesting about that is because LeBron last year, if he's going to go ahead and roll to the basket, there wasn't really any shooters last season who he could give the ball to, so it clogged the paint a little bit more, it clogged the court in general a little bit more. One thing that was pretty funny is when you said picture Jonathan Williams, what was he was doing last season, and now imagine Anthony Davis in that place, which is actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, LeBron's just going to have so much more to do. I mean, so many more options this time around just compared to last season.
On top of the fact, like when you look at last year and LeBron would be settling for like threes a lot, it looks maybe like why is he not being so aggressive? But then like when you take a step back and you look who else is on the floor with him, like Ingram and Lonzo, and like Josh Hart was struggling with the shot in the second half of the season. The defense was all just sucked in. But now when you surround him and LeBron and AD with shooters, you can't do that, and he should be able to get to the rim like much more often this year.
But so what's to stop teams though from just kind of sagging off of him and not and pretty much leaving Anthony Davis or LeBron with those wide open threes? At this point, that's probably the go-to move, right? I mean, sitting down on those shooters and just kind of sagging off of them and just letting them take those threes at this point. That's like the only thing that I can really think would be that'd be the option that I would go with at least.
Yeah, at some point, like LeBron and AD are just gonna have to hit shots. Like if you're going under and leaving LeBron open, or if you're dropping a big and a pick and pop is available for Anthony Davis, he's got to make that shot, or either take it to the basket and like play make out of that situation. But LeBron and AD are gonna have to hit threes this season.
They're gonna have to hit threes. They're gonna have to hit threes. They're gonna have to hit a lot of things. It's really gonna come down to the shooting this season, and I like you were saying earlier about LeBron taking all those long threes last season. Those were probably the biggest killers to me. And although he's improved with shooting, I don't know if he can hit that consistently enough to really have that defense overplay on the pick, I guess. And they're forcing AD and they're forcing LBJ to take those threes. Do you think they're going to be able to hit those consistently enough? If it's not an Avery Bradley, if it's not a Danny Green, if it's not a Quinn Cook, I mean, are Anthony Davis and LeBron going to be able to hit those consistently enough to kind of force teams to overplay on the pick?
I think so. You've seen like Anthony Davis been working with lethal shooter this offseason, and I believe last year he was around 36% on catch and shoot threes. So if you're able to get him pretty wide open on the perimeter, because like a big lumbering center is not going to want to get out there, he should be able to knock down enough of those. And if teams are like sagging off too much, there's other things the Lakers can do. So like if you're sagging off Anthony Davis a bunch in the paint, then he can go screen for Danny Green. And when Danny Green comes around that screen, Anthony Davis defender going to be in the paint, and there's no one to guard Danny Green. So there's always ways to counter whatever the defense is trying to do to you.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most important things too is when the three-pointer is not working, you got to attack the rim. This year, I hope we're much better at free throw shooting, because last season, everything, every time a Lakers stepped to the line, you knew it was going to be trouble, whether it's LeBron at the end of the game, whether it's anybody at the beginning of the game, even KCP on a technical. You just couldn't trust anyone, man. That's an area we really need to improve this season.
Yeah, the free throw shooting is just like one of the most frustrating things, and especially for LeBron. Like he's just so streaky on it. Some years he's up in the high 70s, and then last year he's like at 67. At this point, you're something he's kind of figured out by now. But
another thing that that LeBron is still trying to figure out is the NCAA's new rule they put in place, right? So on Monday, the NCAA actually issued a memo to agents outlining new certification requirements that to represent players testing the NBA draft waters, right? So pretty much the NCAA has now made it to where if a player wants to test the draft waters and then kind of, I guess, go back to college, they're only able to do that if their agent is certified, right? So they have to go through this MBPA certification. They have to be they have to be certified for at least 3 years. They have to have professional liability insurance, which isn't a big deal. They have to complete this in-person exam in Indianapolis, which isn't a real big deal. But the biggest component of this, I think, is the fact that now they're requiring agents to go ahead and have a bachelor's degree, which kind of looks like they're specifically targeting a certain Rich Paul, right? I know LeBron came out and he specifically hashtagged this as the Rich Paul rule. I personally, I don't want to go with the whole, I don't want to say it's a racist rule, but it definitely has a bit of a racial undertone to it. For me personally, it just comes down to profit, man. And the biggest factor in this is the fact that Rich Paul and Clutch are starting to drive that profit stream that the NCAA is trying so hard to keep.
Completely disagree with the NCAA. I mean, the fact that Rich Paul has enough experience under his belt to do whatever he wants. I mean, he even found a way around the system of the NCAA. What do you get? Darius Baisley, a $1 million internship at New Balance, so he's able to make some income. I mean, and that's something that now the NCAA is trying to, it doesn't make any sense other than what you just said, is if it's not going to be profit for the NCAA, if it's not going to be something that's going to work out for them, then it's not something that's going to interest them. I mean, Rich Paul and LeBron have been, ruling the basketball world right now in the NBA. They're transitioning now to the NCAA, and it looks like they want to put a stop to that. It's totally unfair in my view.
Even if this doesn't impact Rich Paul in a major way, it just impacts like agents in the future, because now it streamlines it where you got to have enough money so you can go to college. If you can be an agent and get certified by the MBPA, you should be able to be an agent. And now you have to do it like the traditional way and follow the NCAA's model, whereas that kind of discriminates against people like Rich Paul who go like a more non-traditional route, but are still very good agents.
This kind of is just going to drop that PPP, the player profit pipeline, right? Years ago, you could tell that the NCAA was having a problem with players jumping straight from high school to the NBA, right? They missed out on guys like KG. They missed out on guys like Kobe, LeBron. So then they went and put that stupid one and done rule in. That to me didn't make sense back then. It still doesn't make sense to me now. I mean, if you're putting a rule in place that's saying, hey, we want to make sure that these players are getting their education, then why place a rule that only allows you to go to school for 1 year? I mean, am I missing something? Is there a 1-year degree that you can obtain?
Yeah, I mean, as far as that goes, I mean, same thing. It's all about profit, man. If you have Zion going straight to the NBA, if you had, Brandon Ingram, Ben Simmons back in, a couple of years back going straight to the NBA, nobody's going to watch, the March Madness. The ratings are going to go way down. So they want to ensure that by keeping players that are going to be hyped while going to the NBA or before going to the NBA, that they keep them there for at least a year so they can keep that viewership. I'm going to be honest. I only watch, college basketball when it's interesting, when there's somebody who I need to watch. I didn't miss one Zion game. If he went straight to the NBA, I probably wouldn't have watched much of RJ Barrett, So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, man, this just, it doesn't make sense, man. And that honestly is, I think, really what it boils down to with the whole Rich Paul thing. Did you guys have a chance to read this article that came out in Sports Illustrated? I believe it was in June or July. It was by S.L. Price, and it was pretty much talking about Rich Paul. I know LeBron had some tweets about it. He highlighted some excerpts and stuff a few days ago, I believe, right? But there was a line in there specifically that made me think, wow, this is exactly why they put this rule in place, right? And it really, give me a second here and I'll pull it up for you right now. Yeah, he was pretty much talking about the fact that the true issue nowadays with people's problem with Rich Paul isn't so much like the race issue. It's more the fact that he's different. He's different. LeBron's different. Clutch is different. All these things that are happening nowadays are all different, and they're causing a disturbance in the machine, right? The quote unquote the machine. There was a specific quote in here where he was sitting there talking about the fact that players nowadays, they see through the bullshit. They straight up see through the bullshit nowadays. They're not sitting here just going by the status quo. Rich Paul is all about player empowerment. He's all about trying to change that narrative. And there was a specific quote in here. Give me a second. So there was a specific part where Draymond Green was talking about the fact that Rich Paul's understanding, well, I'll just quote it. So pretty much he says, Rich Paul's understanding and really the priority that he makes for players to control their own destiny and for players to take advantage of that power that they have. That right there to me was like the antithesis of not the antithesis, I'm sorry, but the main reason why the NCAA had to do this.
Yeah, I mean, as far as that goes, pretty much what that is what you just mentioned. I mean, the word power is what stands out there. And, the owners, or I should say, what are their names? It's not owners anymore. It's
Oh, I'm sorry. The governors?
Governors, yeah.
governors.
Yeah.
There you go. The governors, I suppose. Now, what they want to do is they want to have somebody under contract and, have them play it out. But if you don't get somebody, the talent to surround them, and they want to look for their own avenues to try to have more options for winning, for some reason it's looked down upon. I mean, there are certain instances, for example, Kevin Durant joining a 73-win team, which nobody liked.
Yeah.
But the fact that Anthony Davis is requesting a trade to the Lakers to make sure that New Orleans gets something in return, not just leave them with anything, it's kind of looked down upon. And especially because he's a Laker, it was kind of nitpicked, by Steve Kerr as well. When Paul George just signed with a 4-year deal and he left after his first, I mean, not a peep from that, right? It's all good in Clipperland for everybody. But if it's the Lakers, man, it seems like just nobody agrees with anything that we do on our end. And I know probably Alex over there shaking his head, feeling the same way about it.
I get like why other teams and like are getting upset with the players doing this, but at the same time, it's a business, and these players are gonna do what they like the most that they can to maximize their earnings in their career. Like they got maybe 10 years to do this, and so go get your money. Hire an agent like Rich Paul that's gonna help you do that. So good for them.
Yeah, think about it. If you're a young person of color, you live in the hood, you're trying to make it out. The common story that we hear a lot. If you have a chance to make the NBA and you're like, hey, I need somebody who's gonna represent me, who understands me, why would it not be Rich Paul? I mean, if you know anything about Rich Paul's background, he completely connects with these players, man. He comes from the same narrative, man. He comes from a family where his mom was gone for the majority of his life because of drug problems.
Right.
Dad died when he was a teenager. He ended up having his mom come back into his life. He supported her through like her rehab, had her actually, I think, start like some sober living housing and stuff like that. And until she passed away, and all that kind of stuff that resonates with young guys who are looking for that power, for that power,
Exactly. That's what infuriates me, man, that nobody looks at the background of everything. Everybody just sees, oh, this guy's, power hungry. He's only looking out for LeBron's best interests. He's only LeBron's friend. LeBron's posse, as, Phil Jackson put it. And it's not fair because these guys have a background. They're hard workers. Rich Paul didn't need to become an agent. He could have just, been chilling and, living off of LeBron, just hanging out with them, living the good life. But, he's putting in the work to make his own money, to build his own empire. And it's just not fair when people just categorize him, and try to, minimize what he's doing when he's actually putting in the hard work.
And it's easy too, especially when you're just associated with such a polarizing figure like LeBron. Because for the longest time, I used to say the same thing. Oh, Rich Paul, he's pretty much just riding LeBron's coattails and all that stuff, right? And as I've learned his story and I've kind of learned about what they're doing, I've seen it in a different light now. It's all about you don't hear players complaining about this. You don't hear players complaining specifically about Rich Paul, right? It's mostly just coming from front offices. It's coming from the NCAA. It's coming from NBA officials. That's usually where the narrative, where the complaints are coming from, right?
Right.
And we kind of go back to the fact that the NCAA can go and put a rule like this in place, which I don't think is going to actually stay in place much longer. But they can do it because they wield that hammer. And if you go back to that Sports Illustrated article, there's a part in there where Rich Paul actually says they don't like, where he's sitting there talking about the fact that when you have that hammer, you have to use it. They don't complain when it's on the opposite end. Nobody was complaining about Anthony Davis while he was sitting there buried in New Orleans, right, for the past 7 years. But as soon as he says, you know what, this isn't to my liking, and I want to do something different, and I want to take charge of my career, then all of a sudden everybody's in an uproar.
I just don't see like how this benefits NCAA that much. Yeah, you're keeping some more like fringe prospects in school. Number one guys who, once you just completely declare for the draft, like you can sign with whoever you want. But it's like guys who want to test the waters and stuff that will sign with the agent and then like go back to school, that this kind of hurts, which I mean, that's like marginal benefits for the NCAA. And then they're claiming like, oh, we're doing this to protect the players after like all the scandals and stuff, which this doesn't, like, the difference between an agent with a bachelor's degree and not having one, like, that doesn't determine like how good they are as agents. They're still going to be sleazy agents like with bachelor's degrees.
Right. And the problem with this is the fact that they're trying to keep everything in their structure, right? So they want everything to flow their way. They want everything to stay inside their box, And then when you have these guys, these characters like Rich Paul, like LeBron, who sit there and constantly push that box and push those limits, and now they're outside that tangent, this is where they kind of lose control and where they start to kind of decide, okay, we need to do something, right? I mean, I don't think Rich Paul has really hurt LeBron. Is Rich Paul the first guy to kind of do the one-on-one deals? I don't think I've really seen that one-on-one deal other than with LeBron, right?
I mean, LeBron's kind of unique in that, like, no matter what happens to him, he still, like, has enough leverage. Like, he's still going to get paid. So, yeah, it hasn't been done very much before. The contracts used to be longer. So, like, dudes would sign, like, 7-year contracts and stuff.
Yeah.
But now LeBron's kind of been using the 1+1 so that he has flexibility and to put pressure on the team to make sure it's still improving and not like, oh, we have you under contract. So, like, what are you going to do?
And those 1+1s have made LeBron an extra $50+ million just doing it that way.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I mean, now that he's getting into the later stage of his career, now he just came to the Lakers. He said, you know what, we're going to do a 4-year deal. But after this, once it's expired, I think LeBron still has enough in the tank where he can play a couple extra years. So maybe we'll see the return of the 1+1 here pretty soon.
Oh, man, I hope not, man. Because honestly, I can't stand the 1+1 as a fan. You're always on edge, man. You never know if you're going to have to go buy a new jersey, pretty much.
Yeah. Like David Griffin was just talking in that Sports Illustrated article about how much pressure that put on him in Cleveland with LeBron always on the 1+1s. Just there was so much pressure to win, and there was always that like potential for him to leave.
Maybe that's why Anthony Davis won't commit just yet. He wants to put the pressure to win.
Well, I don't think he really has any reason to commit. I think. Unless something crazy happens this season, and I can't imagine that it would get crazier than it did last season, I don't see Anthony Davis walking away. It's gonna have to be a complete shit show in order for this to go down, right? Or for it to not go down. Moving on from the Rich Paul story, which is getting a lot of people riled up right now. Another interesting tidbit that came out this week was Shaq. He came out with his all-time Laker lineup, which kind of got me thinking a little bit about. And let's kind of go back a little. In Shaq's Laker lineup, it was him supposedly playing the power forward next to
and yes, I'm playing power forward, right?
yeah next to Kareem with Magic running the point and LeBron and Kobe in there, right? So that's an amazing lineup. But yeah, I don't think anybody can beat that lineup. I was sitting there kind of just going through options in my head, and I'm like, even if you can settle 2 through 5, there's still the problem with Magic, because there's no other point guard like him out there. He creates mismatches and all that. But anyway, kind of going back to my point, I was sitting there thinking, okay, this is obviously the all-time Shaq's all-time Laker lineup, right? So who would we say is the all-time Laker lineup of non Mount Rushmore players, non All-Star players, those reserve type guys, those glue guys that we've kind of fell in love with over the years? How would we kind of draw that up? If you had to take one guy, each position, and just kind of form a lineup, who would that be? How would that look for you guys?
Obviously, you got to start with Alex Caruso. No, I'm playing. But I'd probably go with Derek Fisher. Just comes up in the big moments. Good defender, shoots the ball. Go with Byron Scott at the 2, Lamar Odom, Robert Horry, and then centers like a little tougher. You could maybe slide AC Green down there, Vlade Divac, something like that to round out your lineup.
Wow, man, you're not going with Chris Mim or Slava Medvedenko?
I mean, you could if you want to.
For me, you got to take DJ Banga. I mean, he's the ultimate. I would say Fisher. I agree. Fisher. Ultimate champion. Comes up big in clutch moments. Definitely defensively, could slide right in for that charge as he used to so many times over the years. I would go with the 2 guard Sasha. I think Sasha, the machine, could knock down a 3. He could definitely make a couple of free throws if the championship's on the line. Ariza is somebody who I always just loved as a Laker. I think every Laker fan is just loving Ariza. No matter what he does, we would always welcome him back. So Ariza would be there for me. Lamar Odom goes without saying, Laker favorite. He's all the intangibles, all the skill in the world that he had there with the Lakers. And then finally, I believe he did reach an all-star game or 2, but I would go with Andrew Bynum as my center. That isn't necessarily somebody who's a superstar, but it was good enough for me to put on my list.
And I had actually Bynum on there as well. And I know he made that all-star team and whatnot, but he was always on that precipice of just like the next big thing, right? He just never happened. It never happened for him. But rounding out my team, I think the consensus point guard is going to be D-Fish, man. I'm trying to think of a guy who might be more beloved than Derek Fisher as a Laker, right? This guy hit a dozen shots in the most critical moments. Maybe not at the end of a game, but down 4 with like a minute left, against the Magic in the finals. Who else is sitting there but Derek Fisher with that rainbow 3-pointer, right? For me, Ariza was another guy, probably one of my all-time favorite Lakers with Lamar Odom. Lamar Odom, I think I would have him probably at the 4 just because he's that hybrid guy. But I think for me, I'd have to have Shannon Brown at the 2, man. Shannon Brown, dude, Bug-Eye Brown is what I used to call him, man. Dude, this guy used to just have me jumping on couches, jumping over tables. Oh man, he's super electrifying dunker. I was really sad when we let him go, but I think that would have to round it out for me.
Yeah, I think that's a good list, man. Shannon Brown's somebody we usually forget about because he wasn't necessarily a huge part, but man, he was exciting. That one block, it should not have been a foul. We all still go back to that.
Yes.
That guy could jump out of the building, man. Definitely. That's a good one right there, actually.
Dude, we're not even throwing in the fact that I believe he's still with Monica, right? The singer?
I think so. I think he's still
yeah.
Yeah.
Monica got me through puberty, I think, man. So big shout out to Shannon Brown, bro.
And now you got the full beard.
And now I got look what you did to me. Look what you did. I think it's really been a slow couple of weeks. Obviously, the media's doing their best to kind of create some stuff for us to talk about. Yeah. I don't know how much good they're doing. I mean, we didn't even touch on the David Griffin stuff, which I thought was pretty silly. We definitely didn't touch on the Jason Whitlock stuff from last week, which I don't even want to.
I'm glad we didn't. Yeah. Yeah. No.
All I want to say is I got 2 fingers up and they're pointed in a specific direction. I'm not gonna tell you which fingers they are.
Yeah. And with that said, just want to congratulate Alex again. That was a great article, man. Really in depth. Like I said, looking forward to the next one. Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Good stuff, bro. Way to raise that bar for Philip. Philip's got something. You set that bar, huh?
Yeah. We got only up from here.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the way to go.
For those of you guys who aren't familiar with Philip is actually another new member of Showtime Forum. He's another one of our writers, Philip Herrero. He actually has a pretty dope article on there as well on the showtimeforum.com, which you could check out. I believe it's called An Ode to Jared Dudley. Or at least that's the way I read it. An Ode to Jared Dudley. Right?
Yeah, Jared Dudley liked it so much himself, he retweeted it. So there you go.
Right. That's right. He did retweet it, right? Jared Dudley, bro, you got to stop creeping in the posts and our comments. You just have to jump on the podcast one of these days, right? So let's go ahead and wrap this up now. Make sure if you're not following us now, make sure you are. We're on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. Obviously, now you can just, if you want to go to the center or the focal point of the Showtime Forum universe now, you go to showtimeforum.com. But that's going to wrap it up for us. If you want to follow any of us, descriptions are down below again. Thanks again for Alex. We'll have Alex on again, of course. Maybe we'll try to get Philip on here next week. Maybe we can do some kind of writer war in the future.
There you go.
Hey, we're gonna have to have these guys in here, throw them in a cage, and just see who comes out alive.
Who comes out with the final paper, just standing out. Exactly. Yeah, and then as far as everything goes, right now it is a little slow for Laker news, but we promise to show you lots of Laker workout videos on Showtime Forum. So please follow us.
We got Team USA coming up. That'll be fun.
Yeah, that's true. But on that note, so I do want to mention that next week will be our final episode of the season. That's going to be episode 20. So we're going to wrap it up. We're going to go on hiatus, kind of revamp some things, change some things up for next season, come back better. So if you guys are interested in another t-shirt raffle, pay attention this week. We will drop another promotion for a t-shirt or 2 or 3 or 5. I don't know how fat my pocket's going to be next week, but just stay tuned. We're going to have some pretty cool stuff this week for the final episode. So, check us out. Again, we're on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Anchor. Listen, review, share it with your friends, do whatever you got to do. If you want Lakers content, you come here, nowhere else. We're out.